but I'm better than you. And you know it!
Hi, my name is Mike. Welcome to my vlog about football in general and Burnley FC in particular. A vlog that is hoping that I get to the end of this intro without YouTube sticking an unskippable advert in your face. The off-season is in full swing, which means several football traditions must be abided by. Rampant speculation about transfers of players you've never heard of is put out there by people who pretend they actually knew about said player longer than 10 minutes ago. With the signing of Dara O'Shea not being hinted at by any of these alleged in-the-know accounts and experts, I actually recommend printing out a list of all registered footballers in the Belgian and French top divisions, pinning it to the back of the door and then throwing a dart at it. Frankly, you'll be more accurate. The other tradition is poring over every utterance the club makes and trying to divine the hidden meaning of a statement that is on the surface so full of cliches it might well have been generated by ChatGPT. The Clarets have launched a membership scheme for a fee. You can pay for a membership, which is basically, when you boil it down, a waiting list for tickets and for other stuff like club discounts. The membership scheme exists because Burnley have never, to my knowledge, been in a position to need a waiting list for tickets. If you wanted a season ticket and could afford it, there was always some available. There was no waiting list. If you look at recent attendance figures, Burnley have been running at between 90 and 95% capacity when in the Premier League, which is pretty damn good considering, but not quite a sellout every single time. But now demand for season tickets is such that the club has sold as many as it is allowed to. The club cannot sell all its home season tickets. I can't remember the exact percentage. I think it's something like 70%. But also that is not a good idea to do so because you want to be able to attract new customers, to run promotions. In some cases you may need to alter capacity for certain games. It might be slightly counterintuitive, but once you think about it, once people get out of the habit of going to a match because they can't get a season ticket and they have no chance ever of getting in through the turnstile, then they are unlikely to ever come back when you actually do need to fill that seat. So the club have sold every season ticket that they can and they've still not fulfilled the demand. And because of that demand, ALK have created an official waiting list. And because ALK are here to make money, they have called it a membership scheme and charge people to be on it. Pretty much every big Premier League club does this because it can. Now the club got a lot of pushback on this, not because there was anything inherently wrong with the idea, but because the club had made a small, and I mean small, misstep on the announcement. And that's not something that they usually do. They basically didn't word the announcement and the membership scheme perfectly. They worded it well enough, but it wasn't perfect, and that means that people took the opportunity to moan. And let me be clear, moaning is easy. If you ask any one of the 375 blogs, podcasts and vlogs about Burnley Football Club what the hardest thing was about the season that had just gone, it was coming up with content. Because when things are going well, how do you fill time? Winning is not good for content. People actually want to see negativity and rage clicks. That's how you build an audience if you're going on social media and you want to build an audience. When things are going badly, I could sit here for a long time and spout off about such and such a player not being good enough or Vince and company getting his tactic wrong or whatever. Negativity fills time. And so some people misunderstood, perhaps deliberately, the short social media posts that the club put out because they wanted to get their hot take out there as fast as possible, which meant not actually waiting and digesting what was going on. And the second reason for moaning is because some fans are, to be blunt, afraid that someone else is getting something that they aren't, and they don't like that. The initial tweet said that if you paid for a membership, you got access to buying tickets, including away tickets. What it didn't make clear, because we live in a social media world of instant images and 280 characters, is that this priority was after season tickets holders had had a go. So what happened was people jumped on this as members getting priority over them as long-term season ticket holders, and they kicked off. It was a bit like the Rovers ticket thing, where demand vastly outstrips supply, meaning some people miss out. And those people, boy, did they let others know about it. They had 11,000 loyalty points. They hadn't missed a game, home or away, for 20 years. They deserved that Rovers away ticket over some of those who got one in a random ballot because, well, and here is the key, they're better than you. This is the weird thing about being a proper supporter, a proper fan, and no one can ever define it. Are you supposed to defend the club at all costs? If I criticise a player in this vlog, am I supposed to shut up and back the shirt? I can't go to every away game. I rarely can get tickets for those that I can. Does that make me worse than others? It always boils down to the same thing. The person who is telling you that you're not a proper supporter is actually saying, I'm better than you. And then they get to set the criteria. I've been going to matches for 50 years. Well, I haven't been on this planet for 50 years. Does that make me worse? If I have to drive from Manchester and someone else drives from Scotland or flies in from Europe, am I not as committed as they are? I've been a Clarets fan for over 30 years. I've had a season ticket for about half of that. Does that make me more of a fan than somebody who has probably hardly ever heard of Burnley a year ago? Someone like JJ Watt. I've been a supporter of this club for 30 years. JJ Watt has been a supporter of this club for 30 minutes. But then he's put a couple of million quid into the club, and this may surprise you, but I haven't. So who, in fact, is the better supporter of Burnley Football Club? Is it JJ Watt or is it me? That's why the better fan than you argument is stupid and mendacious. There is absolutely no black and white criteria to determine the deserving and the undeserving. But some people will always try to do it anyway because it's an ego trip. But that brings me on to the second point, which is the other bit of news that came out of the club, where they've announced a new front of shirt sponsor for the forthcoming season in the Premier League. Now, a new change was coming after Classic Football Shirts tweeted a thank you some time back, and the club announced that the new sponsor is going to be a Far East betting company. This is disappointing but inevitable, and if you didn't see it coming, then blimey, what world do you live in? The club has had a betting sponsor in the Premier League for every season except one, and if you know which one that was, leave your answer to the trivia question in the comments down below. But we had one last year when we went down from the Premier League, and I struggle to remember who it even was. As for why we have these sponsors, the answer is simple, and of course it is money. The market for available shirt sponsors for Premier League clubs outside the big ones is quite small. It is pretty much accepted that the club had very good financial reasons to have betting sponsors on the shirt. It was pretty much accepted knowledge that the club had 7.5 million financial reasons a year. Yes, the club stated that they wanted fewer gambling sponsors, which is a laudable aim. I want a pony on a plastic rocket, which is also a laudable aim. But name me one non-gambling sponsor who is going to put at least 7.5 million financial reasons a year over several years into the coffers of Burnley Football Club. I'd love to know it. ALK would love to know it. And it's not as if it's a surprise, because the most prominent sponsor last year was on the training gear, the warm-up gear, the pitch side advertising. And that wasn't Classic Football Shirts, it was another betting company. And like most of the betting companies associated with English football, they are UK-based companies purely in order to utilise the UK betting licence. Their real business is in the Far East. That company that has its logo on all the training gear, if you go to their website and look at where their office is, it's in the Isle of Man. And thanks to the magic of Google Street View, here is a picture of their registered address. By the way, it's the door on the left and it's on the first floor. The actual bookies you see there is a completely different business, and you go through the door on the right. But it's okay, because our new sponsor is different company. They have a different office. It's this one. based in Poole, Dorset. Now I have to point out, there is nothing illegal going on here. These are proper companies, they are reputable companies, they are properly incorporated, properly licensed to do business. The only reason I'm showing you this stuff is to emphasise that ultimately these companies are not for your or my consumption as Burnley fans. We are not the target customer, we never will be. The Premier League is a worldwide business, and businesses from other countries and other continents are going to want to advertise to their customers, and if they can pay more than Burnley-based businesses can, then that's the way it goes. The Premier League has agreed to ban gambling advertising on the front of shirts from 2026, which is one of the low-key, most hilariously cynical moves from a league renowned for hilariously cynical moves. The ban does not affect Man City, Man United, Liverpool, Arsenal, Chelsea, Spurs and soon to be Newcastle. It only affects the non-big clubs. Also, the Premier League bans shirt front advertising. Not shirt sleeve advertising or ground advertising or stadium naming or training top advertising or broadcast advertising or whatever, you get the idea. It was literally sticking a plaster over a broken leg. It was pretending to care, pretending to make a difference. Like when Jeff Stelling appears on the big screen introduced by a betting logo, surrounded by betting logos, telling you to gamble responsibly before being replaced by a betting logo. The gambling industry has got its teeth into football in a massive way, and the football authorities and the government just shrugged and looked the other way. So at the end of the day, what's to prevent Burnley doing that? What are they supposed to do? 1 year of this betting sponsor's money has paid for Dara O'Shea's transfer fee. They're not going to turn that down. They'd be stupid to. It would be great if we had a non-gambling sponsor, but that's not an option. And I'm not going to pull the "it could have been worse" card, but thank God it wasn't the outright bloody scam that is cryptocurrency. I've said this before and I'll inevitably say it again in the future. ALK have invested in Burnley FC to make money. They are open about it. They want to invest, they want to turn the business around, they want to sell it for a profit in 5 or 10 years, whatever. They are decent people, I have plenty of time for them, but no one should fool themselves as to why they are here. Now, ALK's plan to make money involves having a successful Burnley FC on the pitch in terms of being in the Premier League, and that matches the wishes of supporters like me because we want a successful team. But that plan also involves maximising revenue from fans and sponsors off the pitch, and for God's sake, get used to it. And also stop being hypocritical. Let's say we buy Victor Gyökeres or Zion Fleming in the off-season. We're a Premier League club and our revenues mean that we can make an offer to Coventry or Millwall that they cannot reject. We can potentially offer wages that those clubs can't match, which means the player will want to leave. Where do you think that money's coming from? It comes from shirt sponsors. It comes from the membership scheme. Now, I'm not going to be buying the new shirt, and that's disappointing, but my personal rule is I do not wear advertising for companies that I disagree with. I don't have to. I'm not forced to buy a shirt, and I'm not calling for a boycott. I'm not being a martyr or any of this holier than thou thing. It is a personal choice not to walk around with a gambling advert on me. But if you've fired off a tweet or you've made a forum post today complaining about the sponsor and then you're placing an order for this upcoming season's shirt, then I have no sympathy for you because you're part of the problem. I just want people to be consistent. If you are upset about having a gambling company sponsor the shirt, don't buy it. No one is forcing you to do so. And if anyone says that they have to buy the shirt no matter what, and you should be buying the shirt no matter what, well, I can always say that they're a better fan than me. If you've got any comments about this video, please feel free to leave them down below and I will respond where I can. If you liked it, click the like button. And if you like what I do, have a look around the rest of the channel and click subscribe to be notified when I produce new content.